Welcome to another exciting episode of H plus H Connect. I'm Darrin Stern, the show director for H plus H Americas and a vice president at Colmus Inc., based in Chicago. Our podcast series brings you valuable insights and inspiration to enhance your business, creativity, and overall inspiration. In today's episode, we have a fascinating state of the industry panel discussion from H plus H Americas 2024 featuring a diverse group of experts from the craft industry. Joining us are Tony Lipsy from TL Yarn Crafts, Gina Pantastico from Cloud9 Fabrics, Scott Stone from Genporia Craft, and Virginia Johnson from Gather Here. We'll be discussing the current state of craft retail, trends, challenges, and the future of independent retail. So let's dive in and hear what our panelists have to say.
As we thought about putting together this panel, we wanted to include a diversity of viewpoints and vantage points, and I think that we have got that here in spades, so I'll call our panelists to come on up. So we have Tony Lipsy, Gina Pantastico, Scott Stone, and Virginia Johnson, and I will let them introduce themselves. So if you all want to take just 30 seconds or so, tell us a little bit about your business and who you are, and Tony, we'll start with you.
Oh my goodness, of course you're going to start with me. Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Tony Lipsy. I'm the crochet designer and educator behind TL Yarn Crafts. I focus on inspiring and encouraging makers at the beginning or intermediate levels of their practice. And I really focus on fostering community. That's one thing that this space did for me, so I want to do it for other people as well.
Thanks, Tony. And Gina.
Good morning, everyone. I share Tony's sentiment. This is quite overwhelming. But my name is Gina Pantastico. I am one of the founders of Cloud9 Fabrics and Felicity Fabrics. We've been doing this for about 15 years now. I currently serve as the Director of Operations, and under that umbrella, I handle everything from production, sourcing, customer service, sales, and essentially everything numbers related, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Abby.
Of course, thank you, Gina. And Scott?
Hello everybody. As you can maybe tell by the accent, I'm from the UK. My name's Scott Stone. I'm Managing Director of Genporia Craft, which is a company which owns a selection of brands. One in soft craft, which is called Sewing Street, Hobby Maker, Jewelry Maker, and Visible Image. We are a shopping TV channel by probably the first point, but we also work with influencers and content creators to just create great products that people like. And it's all about community really and partnership, so we love what we do. I've been working there for about 7 years now, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Virginia Johnson.
Hi, so my name is Virginia. I own a brick and mortar in Cambridge, Massachusetts called Gather Here, and I run that business with my partner, Noah, who makes it possible for us to do all the things, plus 20 other incredibly talented and caring humans that all call Gather Here not just their job, but their third place. We also have an online space, we have a robust social media presence, and I actually hosted a workshop with Abby when I first opened 13 years ago in my first location in Greater Boston. Thank you.
All right, we are in for a great discussion, so thank you. So we're going to start big. What is the state of craft retail right now? What is working for our brick and mortar shops and our e-commerce shops? What is no longer working, and what should we be thinking about when it comes to independent retail? So actually, Gina, I think we'll start with you on that one, if that's okay.
From my perspective, I think that we really need to start focusing on younger crafters. I think it's really quite important to bring them into the fold, have them be part of this community and feel that they are welcome into this community, whether they sew, quilt, crochet. We really need to be looking to the future, and to me, that's the biggest thing I'm trying to do at our company is encourage young people to get involved in this industry, in this community.
Would you have thoughts to that, Tony?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the state of the industry is growing. Obviously, coming out of the pandemic, we had this massive influx of people joining us in our crafty crusades, and I think it's important to continue to embrace those folks who are early in their practice, who might not know that there's such a massive community of us out there who are just as enthusiastic and just as creative. So I think there's a great opportunity to embrace people who are still early on, maybe don't know where to turn, and just need a little bit of guidance.
What about you, Scott? What do you think?
The biggest thing that we try and do, and I think help support that, is to try and break down some of the harder things to enter. So it feels quite tough to enter a certain craft. There's a lot of words that are said, there's a lot of acronyms for things, and breaking it down to people that just try something, and you might not be great the first time, you might be good the second time, you might not be good the 100th time, but feel more comfortable with trying things, and then try and support people by the community is huge, and once you do it, you love it. So try, and then try and help people try more.
What are you saying, Virginia?
I'm just hopping off of what Scott just said. We truly repeat process over perfection to everyone who enters our space, because we have made sure that there are spaces within our brick and mortar where people can learn. So we break down that first barrier to entry of, we have the tools you need to take up sewing. We have the instructors you need to make that fit. And we really try, as a value-driven business, to embody what we believe craft can be. Yeah, I made a point of making my set today so that people saw me as I am. I have always worn handmade. I get a little teary thinking about, it's not just the fact that my grandmother instilled in me a deep love of handcraft, but through my store, I continue her legacy. And I'm always looking for ways for intergenerational sharing of skills and knowledge, because I get riled up when people say, not your grandma's. My grandma was a badass.
Here, here.
She could run circles around anything I made. And I am proud to continue her crafts and her legacy.
I mean,
Love it. That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
I'd love to talk a little bit about B2B shoppers. So these are our retailers who are shopping for their stores. And I'm wondering how B2B shoppers are buying from you who, as suppliers right now. Wholesale e-commerce shops, are they buying through online? Are they buying through reps? Are they buying here at a trade show? And so where and how are B2B shoppers shopping? And since you're a retail, we'll start with you.
Okay, so a variety of different ways. Last year, I attended H&H, mostly because it was so easy for me to get here from Boston. Like, as soon as something's on the West Coast, it's like a thing. I'm like, oh, and then I gotta go, and then I gotta see my parents, blah, 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 blah. But going to Chicago, I was like, I just hop in. It's like an hour-and-a-half flight, super chill. And I met a bunch of people. One of those people I met was Allie, Road Trip Sock Yarn, and started collaboration with her. And I'm so proud that we did that and that we got to meet face to face. Congratulations, Allie. But I also love a wholesale B2B website, because being the owner of a brick and mortar, we have so much on our plate. We have so many things to do, from the in-person interaction, from training people, from educating the public about what we do and why what we do matters. So being able to hop on my phone, even as I say I have all these boundaries and I'm not gonna check at 11 p.m. at night, I'm still on there, being able to order and do a reorder and getting a notice, like I love when Wooble sends a little notice that says, we've restocked, and I'm like, boop, 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 put it in my cart. The other thing that I've really loved that is post-pandemic is RJR started this program where, to cut down on in-person meetings, they send a small travel suitcase called Rolly, and in Rolly has all of the upcoming lines in paper and fabric and things you might consider. And just having the option of having that suitcase come, and I can open it up on my own time, be that at 11 o'clock at night, take a look, gestate for 24 hours, and then place my order has been very helpful. Because sometimes doing these in-person meetings can be incredibly overwhelming. And I'm like, did I already get that? Do I know I would need that? And being able to talk it through with my team is really helpful.
That's great. Gina, do you have thoughts about how folks are buying B2B?
To Virginia's point, Virginia carries our fabrics. We're very proud that she's one of our stockists. And we have a very robust, user-friendly wholesale web shop. But there's a litany of ways that you can find our fabrics. And I think every shop is an individual. And there's a few other things that are come up today in our discussions where I am a big proponent of stay in your lane and do what works for you. I very much understand where Virginia's coming from, because even on my end, I have to manage my time a lot, and oftentimes I'm doing things after hours. But there are shops that really love the rep to come in. They enjoy that one-on-one human contact. So that's an important element to this industry. I think distributors are also another element. A woman I spoke to today carries our fabrics. She buys it through a distributor. She has a great relationship with them. So I think that every shop has their own personality, their own community, and their own way that kind of works for them. But I do think wholesale web shops are becoming increasingly important, and more people are using them. But I have to stay in your lane and just do what works for you.
Let's talk a little bit about trends, and Scott, we'll start with you on this one. How do you discover what it is consumers want?
It's a tough one. That's the $1 million question, isn't it? It's how do you find out what somebody wants before they know that they want it? we do a lot of trying to lead it, and that sounds silly, but you can build something by showing somebody how to do something in a different way to it's been done before. So not all products are brand new. Not everything that you bring to your stores or to TV is completely new at the same moment. But there's other ways you can show things that you're using or ways that you use it to make it seem new, because new is a thing that people chase. As humans, we chase something that's new all the time, but there's other ways of doing that. The other thing is that social media, you can't get away from it. The trends are there. You can see them before they've even happened there as well. It's a difficult thing to try and stay on top of them all, but there's a lot out there. And then also, I think we'll talk about this, or a few of the panelists will in a bit, going back in time, things that were popular 20, 30, 40 years ago, bringing those back are quite a big thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about you, Tony? How are you spotting trends?
Yeah, I think one of the unique opportunities I have is that I have access to things like this that my audience doesn't. So being able to take back the things that I learn at an H&H or from a craft show or from, a teaching event that I go to, and sharing the things that I've seen is a level of access that they might not have already. So I'm able to share hey, this is something that I saw that maybe we're not talking about yet, so we can start that conversation. I think too, when it comes to trends, I'm a bit averse, because I feel like we do live in an industry that there's a lot of information, there's a lot of opportunity and inspiration already, and I think if we mine some of the great ideas and some of the information that we have access to already, we don't have to necessarily chase trends. I feel like sometimes chasing trends distracts from the amazing people, the speakers, the teachers, the businesses that we have already. So if we can connect those people, I think it can transcend the trends to a degree. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about it. I think at least with TL Yarn Crafts, what I've found is staying true to myself, the things that I'm interested in, the things that I love to do, and sharing that with my audience and encourage them to do the same. Whatever it is that you're into, all of your quirks, all of your weird little interests that you maybe only talk to your best of friends with, share a little bit more of that. I think there's a level of information, a level of passion that we have that sometimes we're a little nervous to share, and I think that is almost more important than the trend, pulling that out of people.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that so much. Okay. When it comes to brands, I also see a shift in direct to consumer, and I'm wondering whether you all are seeing this, and if so, what the impact of that might be. So I'm not sure who wants to start on that one, but Gina.
I will start
Sure.
on that. So we had a brief conversation prior to this, and when this came up, I'm like, oh, I have lots to say on this. My feeling is I've been in this for 15 years and I've seen this industry go up and down and up again, and I'm sure there are plenty of you that have been in the industry twice as long as I have, and you've seen your share of ups and downs. The one takeaway I can say is this is a community. We are all in this together, and if Tony succeeds, even though she's doing something completely different than I am, I know that will probably raise up my end of the business, and that goes for all of us here. So I think we all have to look at it big picture. It's a community, and how do we continue to work in this community? And early on, we had shops like Virginia's, Gather Here, that believed in our brand. They invested in our brand, and I'm very, again, stay in your lane. I am here to service my customers. My customers are the shops. That's who I'm focused on. I want to provide them with as much as I possibly can to help their business thrive and grow. It does nobody any favors for me to go after my customer's customer. I have no interest in doing that. I think it's a very short-sighted approach to growing a business, and that's really where I want to end it. I think it's a short-sighted approach to trying to grow your business. There are better ways to grow your business. That's my 2 cents.
I'm just gonna, so I have a really complicated feeling about this as somebody who, when I first opened my little 1,200 square foot store, Cloud9 Fabrics was one of the first lines that we brought in because I'd read about them in Real Simple magazine, or it might have been Martha Stewart Living, and their
I remember that.
yeah, and their contribution and commitment to sustainability and organic fibers, and that was something that I felt really strongly about in my store. 2020 hit, and a lot of stores that I considered peers, that I looked up to, didn't come out of the pandemic. And they stocked brands that needed those brick and mortar stores to continue making the amazing products that they offer stores like mine. And when those brands went to direct to consumer, I actually, hackles were up. And then I thought, there are millions of possible craftspeople out there, and they need access to these high quality, amazing products too. And if this store no longer exists in their zip code, they need to be able to still find the things they found there. So I dialed it back, and I was like, so I give my customer something different than that wholesaler gives them online. Hopefully, they will seek me out for what I'm providing. But I need those wholesalers to continue making the products that I'm proud to stock so that I continue to be an individual and get to carry the things that I feel the best about carrying. So I have really complicated feelings about it because at the end of the day, I feel so responsible for the 20 plus people that pay their rent and their mortgages and put their kids through school, and the people that I'm sharing our craft with. But if I can't actually put yarn and fabric that I'm proud of in my store, then I wouldn't be open anyway.
Yeah. That's a complicated relationship.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk about the economy, inflation, shipping, freight costs, ongoing supply chain disruptions. All of these are impacting consumer spending, and we know that. What impact, if any, have you seen in your business over the past year, and how can businesses protect themselves from these factors? Scott, I think we'll start with you.
There's no doubt, I think everybody can feel it and see it. It's increasingly going up. I think the way that we've tried to combat it, or tried to communicate it, is that because the information is out there and people understand, it's trying to communicate it on a level where you're talking about how you don't need to increase the price to pass it over. So it's how you can add value adds to products, how you can build through the community and giving other things to it. It's very difficult to just all of a sudden, because inflation is happening and things are going on, to increase the price and continue to think that that can carry on and that the craft community can take that. It's a tough challenge, but it's one that you need to do by, again, being transparent and working with the people that you work with, the partners you work with, the products that you sell, and then also with the craft community as they're purchasing it as well. It's not going to go away. I think we keep hearing it, and there's more and more, but I think it's a challenge for us all to try and see how we can adapt through that.
I don't know, Tony, do you have thoughts on that too?
Sure.
Yeah.
So my business is not necessarily product-based, so it doesn't impact me so directly, but I do find, like, as a content creator, as an influencer, it's tough for me to recommend a product that is constantly sold out or it takes a really long time to get here. So I think it really encourages me and others in my same and my peers to really focus on quality over quantity, finding those really standout, stellar products that is, okay, this might take a little while to get here, but this is completely worth it. I think for a very long time, we were just encouraged to buy. This is the new thing, this is the flashy things, you have to have this. And now we're being encouraged to pace ourselves, to really look at our stash and appreciate what we've bought over the last several years already, to use the things that we want and to maybe get rid of the things that we don't. And my conversations definitely shifted. I don't work with maybe as many brands as I used to. I do feel like with this shift in the economy, the quality of products, and we're really trying to find the things that are going to stand the test of time, the tools, the yarns, even the patterns and the designers that are at a level to sustain us regardless of how quickly new products come out. So yeah, that's what I find.
What about you, Gina? You do a lot of sourcing and all of that. So,
Yep. We have really tried to keep our prices stable. Like I said, 15 years, and I think we maybe did one price, and it wasn't even on every product we offered. This was the first year where we had to implement price increase across the board. I think it was 2.5% on every substrate we offer. It was unavoidable. We all know what's happening. Freight prices are up, raw goods, everything is up. But the way we approach this is we try to bring value to what we do. And this can go for us as suppliers or for you all as shop owners. There has to be value. I think the end consumer understands inflation's happening. That's all you hear about on the news right now. But I think myself as a supplier and you as a shop, you have to bring value to the table. And that 2.5% that you're bringing your prices up, if you're offering a product or a service that is worth it, I think the customer will understand and will, to Tony's point, if it's something valuable, they'll understand and they'll still want it. But that's the key, bringing value to your products.
Virginia, what about you with customers coming in?
Super complicated. So last Saturday was local yarn store day. I hope it was awesome for everybody. I wrote a pretty lengthy blog post that maybe 5 people read about the importance of local yarn stores and building an educated, committed customer base. Because, yes, Gina, I get it. Everything went up. But every distributor, every wholesaler sent us an email in the last year that said, we waited for so long to do this, so we're gonna all do it together. 2%, 5%. And the end is we have a choice. Are we gonna pass that on to the consumer? How many of those increases can we pass on to the consumer and still keep the lights on? How many times can we say, but what you're getting is so much better? Is it? They're also hearing in the news, you're getting less in your Doritos bag. You're getting less Cheerios. Are you getting less yarn? So I'm like, I don't really know how to better educate and how to pass those price increases on and still pay a living wage. Still have instructors that are qualified and educated and versatile. And so it is hard. And I'm not going to mince words about it. Y'all should maybe have a meeting and decide we'll do fabric in the last quarter of the previous year, and we're going to do yarn, because it's just too much. And getting the customer to understand, I could publish all your letters, share with everybody, yes, I know there was a drought and linen is so bloody expensive. We've stopped carrying it. If you're wondering why no one's buying your linen yarn, it's because we can't afford it. I've made the decision I can afford linen fabric because it sells better. So it's really complicated and it's hard, and we make very difficult choices. And we also, as an industry, I'm happy to pay your shipping to me, the distributor. We have to make sure the customers understand that they need to pay the shipping to them, because we cannot continue this. It is not sustainable, ecologically sustainable, and small business sustainable. We are not Amazon, and nor do I strive to be.
Right. Yeah, I'm wondering about residual impacts of the pandemic. So here we are, 2024. Are those impacts continuing to shape how you do business now? I know Cloud9 has changed a little bit about the way you work.
Yep. So prior to the pandemic, we had an office. We would all come there, a typical office work environment. Once the pandemic hit, we had to shift gears, pivot. Everybody was working from home. I was going into the warehouse with one of my other staff members. We were packing orders, shipping it out of our New Jersey warehouse, trying to keep as few people in there at the same time. Once the pandemic kind of was wrapping up, we talked to our staff, and when I tell you that I love my staff, one of them is here. I love them, they're awesome. It's the greatest group of ladies, they're wonderful. And we talked to them and we just asked, are you wanting to come back to the office? Do you want to do a hybrid? Do you want to work from home? And most of them have children. They like the working from home. It gave them a great work-life balance. And when I tell you I have a great staff, I'm going to say it again, I have an awesome staff. I trust them all. I know they're going to do what they need to do. So we converted. So we all work remotely now. We have an off-site warehouse and we are 100% fully remote. We'll get together weekly. We have Teams meetings, sometimes more than once a week we'll meet up, but that's how the pandemic changed our operations.
What about you, Scott?
To talk to that for the UK, it's been really positive actually, which is a strange thing to say, in regards to working from home and how that's allowed people to do different things. So it's allowed people to pick up crafts that they had never done before. If I think about the team that I manage alone, every Friday we have a crafternoon, which is a Friday from 1 till 2. We'll craft together, someone will just pick something up and say, we'll all do that together. So I think there is some real positive impacts that are still carrying on. There's a community of people that have started and are carrying on from the pandemic, and working from home really supports that. And as I say, for the UK, it's a really positive thing.
I want to talk a little bit about how consumers are learning. So consumers are turning to creators on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok to learn new things, and also for brand and product recommendations. And brands are working directly with creators. So from your perspective, what do we need to think about when it comes to this shift? And Scott, I'll start with you on that one too.
Yeah, that's what we do on a daily basis. If you know what live shopping televisions, you will demonstrate something and sell the product from demonstration. How we do it at Genporia Craft with the brands that we have is 100% about demonstration. So someone buys a product because of the way it's been demonstrated, or someone will watch something because of how it's been demonstrated. So we focus on the guests, on the content creators, on working with like-minded people to try and bring to life products. And it's really important to find the right person. It's very difficult to demonstrate and talk at the same time. If you've ever tried, it's not easy. And we also try and do it via workshops as well. For some people, it's really difficult to have a camera in their face as well as show them how to do something. So it's all about how people learn, and many people learn in very different ways. So bringing different creators and different content people along the journey is really important.
Mm-hmm. And finding the right person to do that demonstration is important. So Tony, I'll let you talk about that one.
Sure. I think one of the biggest shifts that I've seen more recently that is a little disconcerting is I feel like sometimes brands will reach out to potential influencers with the perspective of, you should be excited to hear from me. Certainly I am, certainly. But I think that brands need to look at these folks more as partners than employees. You know, I love that I've been able to run my business independently. I don't work for any particular brands. Nobody pays me a consistent wage, which I'm very aware of every day. So when a brand reaches out to me, that first impression is incredibly important, because now what you're saying is, hey, I want you to take my product to your audience that you've spent years cultivating, building trust with, that respect you, and that believe every word you say. So if you reach out to me, hey, here's a product, do 6 different Instagram posts, and just give us an entire week of your life and tell your customers that this is a perfect product, that's not gonna fly, and they're not gonna believe that, and I'm certainly not going to believe that, and it doesn't instill this kind of partnership relationship. So I think as brands, it's going to be incredibly important as we move forward, because we know how important influencer marketing is. People want to get recommendations from folks that they trust, because there's so much marketing out there. There's so many products that are being thrown at you every day that we have to hyper focus on what is actually going to be worth it. So someone like me, my audience regularly says, Tony's never steered me wrong. And I take that to heart, because I don't ever want to. I don't ever want to recommend a product that breaks in a week just because the check was nice.
Right.
I can't do that. If you're a brand that wants to work with an influencer, that wants to work with somebody who's cultivated this enthusiastic audience who's ready to open their pocketbooks, look at it like a partnership. This is not just a one-time thing. This is a, how can I build a relationship with this person that they feel good taking my product to their audience. And then aside from that too, and we're talking about economy, we're talking about industry, understand that it does take funds. Just product in exchange for Instagram posts or talking about your pieces or making YouTube videos, like all of that takes so much time, so much energy, and I can only speak for myself, but I'm not just sitting around waiting for somebody to fill my time. So if you want me to take my time away from the things that I am doing already, you have to make it worth it. And I think part of your pitch is saying, hey, not only am I investing in my product, but I'm investing in you to deliver this message. So have your whole package ready. Get somebody from your team who's ready to walk through this process with that person, and not just, hey, here's a product and give us a post and see you later. You know, I think there has to be more to it. We have to start building some partnerships.
Yeah, almost like peers. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about craft publishing. So we've seen shifts in craft publishing and book publishing and magazine publishing. And I'm wondering, as far as like media, that kind of media, print media is concerned, what is selling now and what consumers are looking for? So I'll start with you, Virginia.
So I'm like just really thrilled to be sharing a stage with you, Tony. We stock your book in our store. And one of the reasons is, like, there's never like a buying thing where we're just like, we need to, we do the research. And I researched TL Crafts, and I was like, this is somebody who believes in what they do, wants to share what they do, is creating information and community that I want to be a part of. And so when your book came out, I was like, I want this book on my shelves. And our crochet instructor is a huge fan and is super sad that they are not here today to meet you in person. But books that we believe in are the books that sell. So if we are like, oh my God, remember we talked about this designer and this artist, this is her book. And these are projects that she created just so you could go home with this information. And that is true for everything that's on our shelves, including the periodicals. Heartbroken when Palm said they would no longer be putting out print, because that was a quality periodical that like really resonated with a lot of contemporary fiber artists and people who wanted to take up fiber craft. So I'm always looking for that, looking for something that's pushing the envelope, pushing us to meet and explore and elevate new and interesting creators. I think it's so important to know what you're putting on your shelves and have something on your shelves, because I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of people that craft are introverted. And so they may want to just grab that book and go sit in whatever nook you have in your store and flip through the pages, and just having that other person in your store, that team member, yourself, go up and say, oh my God, I made this shawl from this book and everybody thinks I knit it. That person is then already, they have this little gateway to making a connection. So I just think, don't just go to Amazon and look at the top 10 craft books and put them on your shelf. Right. You can't compete. Put books that you love on your shelves and talk about why they're there. And going back to how we learn, a lot of people also need that one-on-one. And so for the last 13 years, we offer 3 to 4 in-person classes every single day of the week, because people want to learn and craft with others. People want to own the book. We're doing a whole series using Pom Pom's Ready Set Socks, where people have purchased the book and they want to come in and they want to make those socks with others and share intergenerationally how they knit and what patterns they're choosing. And I just think that is key to it's connection every single time.
Absolutely, yeah, that's great. And then I also wanted to talk a little bit about the role that our big box retailers play, because they do play an important role in the overall ecosystem for consumers. How should brands and locally owned shops interact with them, with the big box stores, and think about the big box stores? And I don't know, Gina, do you have thoughts on that one?
My thought is, again, back to stay in your lane. I think what big box stores offer is not something that a shop like Virginia would offer. I think they're two very different animals, and I think that the independent retailer really needs to look at their community, and I'm sure you know what your community is looking for. You are not going to be that big box retailer. You are going to find those niche items that work for your shop. You are going to offer incredible classes. You are going to have a staff that knows the ins and the outs of whatever craft it is you're featuring in your brick and mortar or your online. You will have a knowledgeable team, and you will bring an experience to your consumer. Big box can't do that. So again, stay in your lane, focus on what you do best. We're not the cheapest fabric out there, but we offer nice fabric. And I think as an independent retailer, you're not going to be the cheapest place to buy whatever product you're supplying, but you're offering something greater. So that's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tony?
I find that it's really important to educate people that local shops exist, local craft shops even exist, and especially since I focus so much on engaging people early in their practice, there's just a lot that they don't know. And they're regularly going to shop at your Joann and your Michaels because they've driven past them 50 million times. But making people aware that, one, local shops exist, and two, they want you to come. There's no barrier to entry. There's no level of experience that you have to have. You don't have to know somebody who knows somebody. Like the doors are open. And I feel like earlier level crafters just don't have that knowledge. They're not aware of what's available in their local area. They don't know about the e-commerce that's also available from a lot of these local shops. So even if you're not near one, you can still engage in one and get the access to that service and to that value that they offer outside of the big box stores. Since I'm engaging people early in their practice, there's usually a balance between what budgets they have to spend. So educating people on, yes, for your charity items or for your quick makes, you might go to your local store, but for that first sweater, you might want something really special. So check out your local yarn shop, go in there, talk to them about what fibers they offer and what you can make with them. Just empowering people to access both, to know that this community is broad and wide and you have access to all of it. So take good advantage of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Other thoughts about big box? Yeah.
Similar to what's already been said, really. I think it's the start of a journey for a lot of people, but we're here then to help support them through it. And that's where we are positioned to play, and where it's perfect to be able to show somebody how to use something. There's no doubt many people have walked in there, purchased something, and have no idea what to do with it. And you're the open door and the accessibility to try and help them support that. Make yourself as accessible as possible, but don't worry about that somebody has got something that they don't know how to use.
You know, I have thoughts. No, I just, shame on brick and mortars, though, that shame customers for going to those big box retailers. We can do better. We all can do better. Like Tony said, this is sometimes, it's about budget. We all have a limit, like as a store, I'm like, this is what I can stock, this is what we can afford. But last year at H&H, I'm just like a little promotion, come to H&H. But last year I had gone through who was gonna be here, and I noted that Lion Brand was going to be at H&H last year. And I associate Lion Brand with the big box store, but I also noted that they had recently won a sustainability award. And that is something that's incredibly important to my brand. So I went and I spoke to them, and they had a number of yarns that were either sourced in the United States, that used upcycled and recycled products and fibers, and we're doing an incredible job of educating the public on a scale that I could never reach. So I now carry Lion Brand yarn, and I carry the lines that make sense for my brand and my values. That is a way for me to take someone who goes to a big box store and recognizes that brand, but maybe they're only buying Woolies, the traditional Woolies, and then they come in and they see that we have Woolies recycled. And we can talk about what that means and what that impact is on the environment. We can also then talk about all natural fibers and what that impact is on the environment. And we can build a long-term relationship. And that is all that we can ever hope for, because it's those long-term relationships that got us through 2020. And we help people regardless of the yarn or the fabric they came in to make something with. We do studio time 4 times a week, where people just come in to use the big giant, we have 8-foot by 10-foot cutting tables, all of our Bernina sewing machines, and they come in with fabric from all over. And a lot of the time there's a story. When I'm not judging you, it's a judge-free zone. You start judging me, it's different. But you can bring whatever in. When you want us to quilt your quilt, tell me the story behind that. I will love every piece of fabric. So we just need to continue being supportive of whatever entry people make into this industry and into this beloved women first handcraft world. And it's just so incredibly important, okay? No more shame, okay? We can do better.
And I would love to take we have some time for some Q&A from the audience, and I would love to hear your questions. So if you have a question, I know there's somebody circulating somewhere with a microphone, so maybe if you can raise your hand, and we would love to hear from you. There's a question here I see, and there. Yeah, we have time for a few Q&A.
I think we all agree that we want to have younger customers in our stores, and perhaps we could just spend a couple minutes talking about the how. How do we get them?
Good question. The how. You have thoughts? Yes.
I have a couple of thoughts. I think you have to look and see what are they interested in. I think if they're young and they've never done it before, that probably means that they need simple projects, right? Whether it's a simple knitting project or a simple quilting project. Cloud9 Fabrics is definitely more of a modern brand with a modern aesthetic, and sometimes often hand in hand with that goes simple projects, not too ornate. So I think simple projects to engage them, and young people tend to be a little more modern. They are interested in things like sustainability. Young people are always, they're thinking about tomorrow, and they've got amazing dreams of a better world. So I think you have to look for products, look for items, look for ways to entice them. So whether it's in simple projects, sustainability, modern projects, modern quilts, things of that nature. I think that's a nice starting point, but I'd love to hear what you guys think and what your thoughts are.
I think one of the easiest ways to get younger people in your shop is to carve out space for them.
And classes.
Yes, create classes, create opportunities for them to connect with each other, invite their moms and their aunts and their grandmas to bring their younger people with them. I know at one of the shops that I frequent, there's a night that they have every week. It's their open knit night, but they will specifically say, bring your kids, bring people from your school, bring your clubs to come in and crochet with us. And I think one of the things that helps as well is to have sponsored products. A lot of these younger crafters don't have their own sources of income, so they can't get hooks and yarn and books and all those things. So if you have a plug or a sponsor who can provide crochet hooks, can provide kits for these classes, then that onus is not necessarily on you. You're not having to dig in your own pockets, but you are carving out a very specific space for that type of creator to come into your shop. And I think outside of that as well, we have to be comfortable mining our own groups. If you know of a young person who is influential in your circle, bring them in, right? Bring them in to have the conversation, because even in my late 30s, there are certain groups that I can't reach directly with my voice. But if I'm now partnering with somebody who that audience knows, likes, trusts, I can have them then be the mouthpiece to say, hey, this is a safe and welcoming space for you. Come in and craft with us. So sometimes you have to employ someone else to have the conversation. But I feel like, especially when it comes to craft and it comes to connecting in this way, it's not a heavy lift. It's not a big ask to bring in somebody who knows the people who will come in.
One other thing, I just want to interject one more thing. One of our local customers, they do something with Girl Scouts. And it could be Girl Scouts, it could be another youth organization, but they do classes specifically for Girl Scout outings, and they'll bring in like 10 Girl Scouts, and then these girls, they've told me, 2 or 3 of them will come on and they just evolve, and some of them, they're 14 years old, 13 years old. They are quilters, like unbelievable. So that's just one idea, but I know that's been very successful for my local quilt shop, so something to think about.
That's great. Let's take another question.
Yeah.
So.
Hi, just along the lines of what Tony just said,
Yeah.
I am very proud to be a fabric rep, as are my colleagues. And I tell my folks all the time, I beg them, use me as a resource. That's why I'm here. And thank you for your time, and I'm not just there to sell you something every time you see me. If you don't have budget, see me anyway, because I'm here as a resource to help you be more successful. Thanks.
Yeah, great. Thank you. There's one here in the front, a couple, 2 in the front, yep. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jewel. I'm a knitwear designer and an online influencer. My question is a little bit of a piggyback of what you guys were just speaking to, but specifically I think to the local yarn stores. More and more I've heard from makers who are new, who are younger and trying to start explaining craft and sharing their love for craft online, and makers who are more seasoned, that they don't feel seen by local yarn stores. There's a lot of, oh yes, if you know about us, come in. But my question is, where do you guys see the state of the industry now, specifically between the link of local yarn stores and online knitwear and crochet designers? And where do you see it 5-10 years from now? Because there is a lot of not optimism from people who are online, again, new and advanced, because they're like, I don't really know how to insert myself into a local crawl. I don't know what that's about. How do I pitch myself? Who do I even talk to? Is it the owner? Is it the person who's working in the local yarn store? I hear come in, but I still don't feel seen. I've been hearing that more consistently, and I'm like, did you just walk in? But a lot of times people are like, I don't know those fibers. I don't know, and a lot of times a bigger retail brand is quicker to send an email and say, hey, let's form this relationship. Let's get on Zoom and like bond and talk through some things. So my question is, just where do you see the link between online designers and influencers and local yarn stores?
I think, just to go back a question, it's not just about our four walls in the local yarn store. We try very hard to be out in the community. So last Saturday, we went to Sustainability Earth Fest at Tufts University and sat with there was a clothing swap, there was a knit craft thing happening, and it's 12 to 4 under the hot sun, but we were there so we could talk to the students about our shop and what we're teaching and what we offer. And you cannot think that, and we joke, we're like, we've been around for 13 years. We are in a major city with a lot of schools. We have people coming and going all the time. Those students had never even ventured outside of their neighborhood. We are one subway stop away. But I went to college, and I remember being like, I don't go over there. So we went to them. Same with Boston Public Schools. I think about, what can I do as an investment in the future, in the younger crafter, in the young designer? It's being in their schools, providing the needles and the hooks and the yarn. And when we think, I've tapped out my budget, this is when you turn to your community. We asked the community, will you sponsor one of these Roxbury High students' journey to fiber craft? The community bought the clover needle, the hia crochet hook, and the yarn. And we were able to bring 50 kits to the school to sponsor that program, which then one of those young people becomes a crochet designer and comes back to us. So we form that relationship. And I talk all the time about, in my first few years of business, I went to every craft show. I introduced myself to every indie designer, everybody who was knitting a hat. One of my former employees and fabulous knitwear designer who, if you haven't met, Juliet Pico Designs is here in the second row. I collaborate with Jules because I met her. She reached out, we met, she worked in our store, she knows my aesthetic. It's like creating and connecting with the people in your neighborhood. When people are like, oh, why did Jules design your local yarn store day hat? Because Jules is part of this community. If you don't go to the trouble of creating relationships, we will all sink together. Okay, so you can't do it in your store alone. You have to be out there in the community, and you have to be willing to sponsor other ways to get people involved and invested in it. So we also coordinate 2 large craft shows every year, one at the holidays and one that's coming up in May 19th. It's in our square. It's called Inman Eats and Crafts. It has restaurants involved. It has every other kind of small business involved. There's a big vintage show, but we also have 45 makers and creative entrepreneurs in greater Boston and New England who come, and it ranges: soap making, candle making, fine art, knitwear, yarn, and all those people are there. And I make a point, I can be on the littlest amount of sleep, and I make a point of saying hello to every single person, asking them how their day is, giving them some water, and saying, if you ever want to do a pop-up or a trunk show in my store, please just reach out. This is my personal email. And we do it every year now. We always have some very small micro business in our store. And it's amazing. and it's amazing to see them grow. I cannot encourage you enough to get into the community. Don't expect the community to come to you.
All right, and on that note, I think we're going to say thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for coming, and the show is going to be open, so thank you. Enjoy. Thank you.
What a fantastic and insightful discussion we've had today. A big thank you to our incredible panelists, Tony Lipsy, Gina Pantastico, Scott Stone, and Virginia Johnson, for sharing their valuable perspectives and experiences. It's clear that the craft industry is evolving, with exciting opportunities and challenges ahead. We hope you found today's episode of H+H Connect both informative and inspiring. As always, our goal is to bring you insights and ideas that can help you enhance your business and creativity. Stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore the vibrant world of crafts. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, keep creating and stay inspired.